Welcome back to Sunday Night Dinners with Deborah. So today I'm making side dishes. I'm actually baking a ham today, but what I'm really showing is some of the side dishes that I will serve with it. But you say, a ham, and it's not even for Easter or Thanksgiving or Christmas. But I have a way of grocery shopping that I wanted to share with you before I get into making our dinner today. I never pay full price for anything. But one thing that I do is I always shop the sales. I get my flyers every week. I have an app on my phone called Grate. Then I take it to my grocery store and I always shop at one grocery store, and that grocery store matches prices. So I have my cell phone in hand. I have them change prices and price match, and the store's happy to do it because I'm spending so much money on other things. But I don't pay full price for anything. I do without. I wait till it's on sale and I buy multiples and I store it. You can freeze most things. Refrigerator items I will buy multiples of, keeping in mind the expiry dates, and my pantry's always stocked. But one of the biggest things that I do is I save money on meat. Now I'm going to show you this ham. I get this ham at the grocery store. I paid $10. So $3.26 a kilo. So it's a 3 kilo, so about an 8-pound ham. And that'll do us for, goodness, probably about 8 meals. And I'll bake it up. We'll eat it tonight, probably tomorrow night, and then I'll freeze the rest of it. And I just got back from the grocery store and I scored another deal. Again, you always got to keep an eye out. 2 whole chickens, good sized chickens. One's much larger than the other, and that's okay because we're going to package them individually. And they were $13.52. They were only $3.90 a kilo. Shop smart, and you can eat very well for very little money. So for our ham, I'm going to make a glaze first. Now I am going to use some homemade mustard, 1/4 cup. Now you can use the old yellow ballpark mustard or Dijon mustard, but I happen to really enjoy my homemade mustard. And we're taking brown sugar, and we cover that ham with the 2. Now I am using 3 tablespoons, very generous tablespoons, like rounded tablespoons. And I'm just mixing that up. It becomes like a paste. So we have our paste, and now we also have whole cloves. I strongly recommend you find out where your local bulk food store is, because these are whole cloves, and we are going to insert. My oven has preheated it to 400 degrees. So I've got my glaze and I've got my cloves. And now I've got my beautiful bone-in ham, and we're going around to the back of the ham. And I am going to take a sharp knife. I'm using a boning knife, and I'm making very shallow cuts, about an inch, 1.5 inches apart, going all the way down and all the way up. And then we do it crossways. And you're not going down very far, just maybe a 1/4 inch into the meat. It's just to give the decorative top to the ham and to allow the flavor of the glaze and the cloves to penetrate the meat. And then we take our glaze and we smooth it all on. Now I have it on a plate. It's just easiest that way, I find. So it goes, the plate will just get washed up afterwards. And then we also use some for the face of the ham as well. When I say the face of the ham, it's the cut side of the ham is what I mean. Okay. And now we take these cloves and we set them into the crosshairs of where we have cut. And you'll be able to see them. So I've got the cloves completely studding the back of the ham. The front has glaze on it. And I've set it just in a 9x13 baking dish that I have lined with some parchment paper. And that's just for the ease of cleanup. And now I'm going to pop that into the oven for about 2 hours. So the Sunday night sides that we're doing tonight are roasted carrots. I'm doing a cheese cauliflower casserole and some steamed broccoli. I happen to like ham with a cheesy kind of dish. It's just the saltiness of the ham and the creaminess of a cheese dish really does meld together well. You could do a scalloped potato or an au gratin potato, which would also be lovely, but we're just having vegetables as our side. Cauliflower. So I'm just going to trim. I have a whole head of cauliflower. We're not going to use a whole head because it's just hubby and I for dinner tonight. But I am going to cut it all up into bite-sized pieces, and I'm going to keep the remainder that I'm not going to cook tonight into my fridge so it's ready to go on another night. So easiest way to do this is to cut your knife straight into the root, pull off the bulk of the leaves, trim your leaves around, and then get your knife right in there and it pulls the heads right out, leaving the core intact that's going to go into the compost. And so we just put that in the compost. So I'm left with all these large size pieces. And so I'm just going to trim those up. The ones that I'm going to use, I'm going to set aside. The ones I'm not, probably there. And I've got a couple of leaves just to pop in. And now I'm just going to cut them into the size of the finished dish, because we are going to parboil the cauliflower because it is a very hard vegetable, and mix it with the cheese sauce and then bake it. Now all this is going to go into a pot with some salted water, and we'll bring it to a boil, cook it for about, because they're small pieces, only for about 5 minutes at a rolling boil. So I'm doing up roasted carrots. So it's just a quick peel. A Y peeler, best carrot peeler ever. So how we're cutting these are fairly small carrots, so I'm going to cut them in half, and then half again lengthwise, and then into quarters, so that each carrot is giving you 8 pieces. That way, it'll only take about half an hour in the oven. And the whole point is that you want to have it easy on yourself so that everything's in the oven, everything is timed, so that everything is ready at the same time. Now I'm just laying these out. I have a small cast iron dish. Drizzle with a little bit of a neutral oil. Hit it with some salt and pepper. Maybe a 1/4 teaspoon. And now I'm just going to set this aside to wait until half an hour before my ham is done. Now the broccoli only gets cooked about 10 minutes before the ham is ready. I can hear my husband sneezing in the basement while he's at work. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut it about an inch below where the florets end. But I'm going to keep the stem end because I make a broccoli and chicken crepe that uses the stem as well as florets. And now I am going to be making long pieces of broccoli. It's all just for presentation. So I'm going to cut it down the center. And we separate it up. And now I'm going to cut through the stem lengthwise. Now I have a leaf here that I am going to pull off. Now you have a nice long piece of broccoli that looks pretty. Again, a leaf, but a nice long piece. And it's just, there's no better nutritional value for cutting it so long, except you are using more of the stem. It's just for presentation. And if you're cutting it anyhow, why not cut it to make it pretty? Thick at the bottom. So there we go. We have all our beautiful long florets. And I have a couple of pieces of stem that I'm just going to save with the other. I've just set it aside on a small plate. And 10 minutes before our ham is ready, I'm going to have some boiling salted water. And I'm just going to drop that into a steamer basket over the salted water. Now it's on to making a cheese sauce to make our cheese cauliflower casserole. I'm using some old cheddar. And this is 400 grams. So I am using 250 grams, which is 1 cup. Nice box grater. Don't buy cheese that's already shredded. It's coated in cellulose so that it doesn't stick together, which is safe to eat, but you don't need to be eating it. And it is always, unless you get a coupon for something like Get It Free, it will always be considerably more expensive than block cheese. And again, only buy cheese on sale. Life is too expensive. Wait for the sales. I probably have 6 bars of cheese in my fridge, and not one of them I spent full price on. And they last a good long time in your refrigerator, and it takes no time at all to grate. I don't even think that took 2 minutes. So there we go. Now, what I do is I leave it all within the grater. And it's on the cutting board. And when I go to lift it, I'm going to slide my knife underneath the grater so that it creates a floor underneath this grater, and it traps the cheese in there, and then I can drop it all into the pot of cheese sauce that I'm creating. It's just quicker, easier, less mess. That's what it's all about. So my cauliflower is about 2 or 3 minutes away, so I'm going to make the cheese sauce. We take a 1/4 cup of butter, turn it up on high, and I'm going to drain our cauliflower while I'm waiting for my butter to melt. And the cauliflower just goes back into the pot drained. Butter is melted, and now we're putting in, starting to bubble up, we're putting in a 1/4 cup of flour. We're making a roux, which is flour and fat. And you wait until you can see the fat in the flour, the butter in the flour, starting to sizzle. But you don't want to color the roux. So I've added in most of my milk slowly. And there we go. Now it's time for my cheese. So I take my cheese with my knife, pull my knife out, and there we go. And we have a nice, smooth cheese sauce. So I have my cauliflower and my cheese sauce. So I take cheese sauce and pour it into my cauliflower. And as I suspected, I'm going to have quite a bit of cheese sauce left. Delicious. I'm using about a cup. So now this is sitting. As you can see, I've got my carrots waiting to go in to about half an hour before the ham is ready to serve. My broccoli's cut up and ready to go into the steamer 10 minutes before it's ready to serve. And my cauliflower will go into the oven as well about 45 minutes before the ham is ready to serve. And now we're going to make the topping for the cauliflower cheese casserole. I've got a loaf of my homemade bread, but you can use 1 or 2 slices. If it's a small loaf, use 2. If it's a larger loaf like this one, I'm just cutting 1 slice. Just going to tear it up into pieces because we're just making some fresh breadcrumbs. And it just pulses a few times. Oh yeah, perfect. So I've got a tablespoon of butter in a non-stick pan. And we're just going to wait until that butter bubbles. Then we're going to add the breadcrumbs to it and then season it with old school salt and pepper. So we're now bubbling away and in with our breadcrumbs. Now you want to just have these breadcrumbs get a little bit of color, not too much. You don't want to burn them. So can you see the coloring of that? It's just lightly toasted. So we are setting this aside because again, this goes on top of the cauliflower, but only 10 minutes before it's ready to serve. But now everything is set. We can sit and relax for another hour before the cauliflower needs to go into the oven. Here's my cauliflower casserole and my toasted breadcrumbs. I've set them into a small container because I'm not going to use all of them. And now I'm just going to sprinkle some on top. And they're going to go back into the oven for about 10 minutes. So here we have served up our cauliflower casserole, our carrots, our broccoli that was supposed to be steamed, and our ham. And of course, we have leftover ham, toasted breadcrumbs, and our cheese sauce. Oh, and you can hear the ducks coming back, honking. And I have the ham bone, and I'll be making some bean soup with that leftover ham bone. So we get many meals out of one time of cooking. So thank you for joining me for Sunday Night Dinners with Deborah, and we'll see you again.